All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Evernest Real Estate Investor Podcast. I am your host, Spencer Sutton, and I've got a special guest with me. I have Derrick Fletcher, who is Derrick, this is the thing. We've called you team leader. We've called you director of operations. I don't know what it is, but you are over our entire Little Rock office, and you run that office. You oversee everything that's going on there. And I'll tell you, like, the things I'm hearing, you're doing a great job, and we've really grown over the past 12 to 24 months. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here to chat with you about Little Rock, the Arkansas market.
Yeah, it's a great, I don't know if you knew this. I was born up in Jacksonville, Arkansas. So yeah, just right up the road from me. My dad was in the Air Force, and I was born in Jacksonville. We moved to Denver, and then when I was probably at 1 or 2, we moved to Birmingham, Alabama. So
that's pretty awesome. Jacksonville is a pretty cool area out there near the Air Force Base and everything there. So we actually have several properties out there too. So
yeah, I knew that. I've seen a map of all of our properties. I knew we had some of those, and and then my brother went to Harding University out in Searcy, Arkansas. That's where which is not far from Little Rock. That's where he met his wife. And I've got a niece who's out at Harding University right now. So yeah, so it's a good little place. And we, actually my wife actually has a sister who lives in Little Rock right now. So all kinds of ties, but we're not here to talk about my family ties to Arkansas.
But it's good to have ties in the area, though.
It is. And I'm not a Razorback fan. I'm an Alabama fan, but we can still be friends with everybody up there. So why don't
we definitely don't want to talk about that. I'm actually an LSU fan. I'm originally from Louisiana, so I hear about it all the time. So
well, I'm not real happy with you this year. I'm not happy with you at all this year. You kicked us out of the SEC championship with your play at the last second play at the end of the game. Oh, it was overtime, I think, wasn't
it? Yes.
Oh, brutal. Yeah. Good rivalry though, Alabama, LSU. But Derrick, why don't you kick us off and talk a little bit about your background? Tell us a little bit about your story, how you came to Evernest, and what you're doing up there in Little Rock.
I feel like my story coming to Evernest is very hilarious every time I talk.
It is funny.
So my Evernest story is I saw this requisition online, and the way the requisition was written, it implied that I had an opportunity to buy properties, that you guys were looking for someone to partner with to buy properties. So of course, I responded to the requisition. I started talking to this guy, and it's funny, about 20, 30 minutes into our spiel, and he says, "Hey, I noticed you keep asking about owning, investing." And I say, "Yes, that's what it says here on the requisition." And he was like, "Are you sure you're looking at the right requisition?" So I shared it with him, and he was like, "Oh, yes. Well, actually, we just kind of mean you would own the process. You would come in and own the market for us." And then he went into his spiel of, "Hey, you sound like a very interesting guy. Would you like to continue talking to us?" And I said, "Yes." And we continued to talk. And he and I talked back and forth for about a month or so. And Trey Griffin at the time was a CLO, military guy. Me and him started talking about military things, and I gave him my background, and he said, "Look, you have a strong operational background. We would love for you to come run ops for us. We're a scaling company. We're scaling really fast." And I was like, "I'm not sure about that. I don't have really any, to my knowledge, I just said, I don't have any property management experience." And he was like, "Really? I thought you owned property." I said, "Yes, I own and manage my properties, but I haven't done it for anyone else. So I'm not sure they'll be a good fit." But needless to say, after a couple of months of talking, Trey talked me on into coming aboard for Evernest, and it has been really awesome. You just get in and learn about the properties growing, and it's helped me with some of my own properties as well. So that's kind of the backstory of how I ended up at Evernest. Again, I was initially looking to buy more properties and end up taking a job.
That is hilarious. I mean, it's so funny to me that, and we've had people come to us in all kind of different ways, but never like hop on a call by accident. And I can tell you one thing, Trey was really looking for somebody at that time up there in Arkansas in Little Rock. And I know that if you two have a military background, then that's like whispering sweet nothings into his ear. He gets so excited when he meets somebody with a military background. But yeah, I heard that story that like you weren't even interested in the job, but man, we're so glad that you came on board. So how long have you been with us now?
About a year now. I'm coming up on a year now. I started at the beginning of this year, and
That's right.
about a year now. So
that's right. I remember you came to the offsite. We had one of our first offsites. This is the first time I met you in Birmingham, yes. early in the year. Well, good deal. So you're a property owner. You were buying property. Let me ask you this: what makes Little Rock such an attractive place for investors? Because I mean, obviously you live there, but I also know that a lot of out-of-state investors look in Little Rock. We've serviced a lot of clients in the area to help them buy properties. What makes it so attractive to people?
Honestly, I think there are three awesome things that makes Little Rock attractive. One being the price point, in which you can invest in the market and acquire some properties. Two being the cost of living here. The cost of living in Little Rock is 5 to 10% below the national average, depending on which study you're looking at. And the third being the high demand for housing. It's a market that's very high demand for rentals. So those three things alone, I think, is very attractive for investors. You talked about having investors outside of Little Rock. We have a ton of investors from the West Coast, for example, numerous investors from California, a few from Utah. But I really think it's the price point that they can enter the market in and then see a return on their investment here in Little Rock. So I think those are probably the top reasons.
What do you think is driving the rental demand in Little Rock?
Well, I would say Little Rock, like other southern states, is very rural, and then you have these huge metropolitan areas. And when you get into the metro areas, you tend to have a large influx of renters. And I think that's something that drives the rental market here in Little Rock as well. You have a few areas. It's funny, recently I was talking to somebody about homeowners association. In the state of Arkansas, you literally have 4% of the homes in a homeowners association. So that means a lot of people rent. That means it's very rural. But if you are able to invest in the market, that means that the likelihood of you having somebody readily available, ready to rent that apartment is going to be high. So I think, again, that bodes well for investors.
So what about, are there any like industries or anything that are current, like that people are attracted to Little Rock for? I know that people move there for jobs. So what is it that especially when you consider the rest of Arkansas, which is very rural? You have up in Northwest Arkansas, we have Walmart and all of that. But then what do you think? Are there certain companies or industries that are really thriving in Little Rock that are drawing the residents there?
I would say yes. I would touch on one first real quickly that you talked about. You talked about the Air Force Base. So that's one where we know, hey, if you live in the military, that can be a very nomadic experience. So individuals are maybe coming here on 1, 2, 3-year assignments. So again, typically those individuals are looking for places to rent. You also talk about from the Army side, we have PET on Camp Robinson. That's like the largest training facility for reservists in the country. Again, you have individuals coming here on assignments for short periods of time, not periods of time where they would be interested in buying the home. So they're looking to rent. If you talk about something that's happened in the last 5 years, 2 huge Amazon plants have came to Little Rock, one on the Little Rock side and another one on the North Little Rock side of the river. So again, those things are driving individuals into the market. In the last decade, Arkansas has seen 5+% growth. So again, I think about when I initially moved here to Little Rock, my first year, I was looking for somewhere to rent. so I could get the lay of the land before I decide to purchase a home. So I think things like that are driving individuals to the city. It is the capital city. It is the largest city in Arkansas. So again, when people are thinking about moving, even within the borders of Arkansas, from those rural areas to a larger city, they often think about moving to Little Rock. And again, things like that are driving the rental market here for Little Rock.
So talk a little bit about what the typical property, like, so how many properties do we manage in Little Rock?
Little Rock, we have 710 properties and growing. I'm sure we're going to have about another 20 or 30 come on before the end of the year through some of the institutional investors we have. But currently we have 710 properties here.
Yeah, so 710 properties, which is really great considering we moved into that market, I want to say in maybe 2018. And it was right around 200 is where we were back then in 2018. So we've grown substantially. So talk about a typical. So if I'm living out on the West Coast, what is a typical property I'm looking to invest in? So kind of describe maybe a typical C-class neighborhood in Little Rock and maybe price points, bedroom, bathroom, year built, all of that.
So, for example, if you're looking at Class C properties in Arkansas, you can very easily in the metro get into Class C properties that's under $100,000. There are a few even Class B properties that you can get into from probably, I would say, from 120, 180. So I think things like that make it very attractive here. So in the deal with the Class C properties here, you can get a very good return on investment with Class C properties here because things like the housing assistance that's here is awesome for a landlord. Arkansas is considered a landlord-friendly state. So let's say you entered into a Class C property at $100,000. You can look at, hey, getting a return of about $1,100 a month on that property. You can very easily rent it for $1,100 a month. So again, that's a nice return for you in this market. It's very easy to work with the housing department as well. So some of those Class C areas are going to qualify for housing. So just really making sure the property is up to coding, housing come in, do an inspection, and 45 to 60 days, you should receive that initial rental payment and monthly after that. So not a very hard process. So again, if you want to get into the Class C market, this is definitely an attractive market for that.
Talk a little bit more about the housing assistance. I mean, I know I'm very familiar with Birmingham housing assistance. We have a few, maybe 2 or 3, like we have Birmingham Section 8, then we have Jefferson County Section 8. I always prefer to work with Jefferson County Section 8, but they just don't give a lot of vouchers out. They're easier to work with than Birmingham. But talk a little bit about how investors work, because that sounds pretty good. I mean, I understand the requirements that they'll have inspectors come out, but what is that process of working? Like, what do we have to do to find great Section 8 residents and get them in those houses?
Here's what I would tell investors and owners: bring the property to us. We'll make it very easy for you. So, for example, let's say you, Spencer, as an investor, decided, you know what, man, Little Rock looks very attractive. I want to buy a property there. And let's say you acquired a Class C property. And then you decided through signing your property management agreement that, hey, I read a little bit about housing. Housing sounds very interesting. What's that process look like? So literally all you would need to do is tell an agent, one of the property managers we have here working in the market, hey, I'm interested in being on housing as well. We literally fill out a new landlord packet for you. We submit that packet for you. They come out, they do the initial inspection, as you stated. From there, your property's on housing. It's literally that simple. Hey, it's as simple as a property manager filling out a new landlord packet, submitting it to housing, getting your property added, and then you open the housing. Which I would strongly suggest if you do as an investor, if you are purchasing a Class C property, because if you purchase a Class C property in Little Rock, that opens the doors even wider for you when you start talking about the housing demand. So I would definitely say do that. I know there's a lot of negative connotations tied to housing, Section 8, where I found the experience in Little Rock to be awesome. For example, they also sign contracts here with the housing department that also protects landlords. So if I'm having some issues with a tenant, again, it's not only me as a property management company that has your best interest at hand, the housing department does as well. So again, I think if someone offers that to you, especially on a Class C property, I would say 9 out of 10 times you should absolutely accept that.
But at the same time, you don't have to, right? So it's your choice. You can allow housing or not allow housing. That's really interesting. How do they? Is it something? Let's just say you were having problems with that resident. Is that something that you, as a landlord, or us as a property manager, would then reach out to the housing authority and say, "Hey, here's the issue that we're having. Please address it." And how do they even address it?
So, for example, if there's something that I couldn't resolve as a property manager with a tenant, the way I can partner with housing is saying, hey, I have a tenant who's not cooperating. They're not paying utilities, for example. Mm-hmm. That's grounds for them to be removed from the housing program as well. So they do have incentives to honor the contract with housing and with us, because, again, if they're not honoring the housing contract, that's grounds for them to be removed from the program. So again, and I love to really promote that, because I know some owners have heard negative things and they're saying, hey, well, I don't want my property destroyed. I want a good tenant in there. One, Evernest has a very thorough screening process to make sure we select the best tenant for the property. And then 2, we work in conjunction with the housing, making sure that tenant is taking care of the property. Otherwise, we can report them to housing and have them removed from the program as well, where they can't get assistance from that agency in the future.
Yeah, that is true. The leverage is really, really great. They do not want to be off the housing authority. It's really interesting. I remember I had a property in Birmingham, and she moved in and went through all the checks and it all checked out. But literally, this is a crazy thing, Derrick. She didn't even live in the house. Like, I would go by to check on it. She wasn't even living. I don't know where she was living, but they were paying rent. And so I think probably when they came and did the annual inspection, they were like, well, she's not even here. And I was like, I don't know where she is. But so I have mixed feelings with Section 8 programs. I've had, and probably because I've had some very good experience with private pay, had some not so good, and a lot of the properties I was buying back in the day were C-class properties, maybe even some D-class properties. But I've also had some, not so great experiences with residents in Section 8, and part of that is sometimes they're a little bit rougher on the property, and maybe because they're living in the property more. So they're flushing more commodes, they're flipping more light switches. They're just a little bit, maybe they live in the house more, maybe than somebody who's not on the program. Can you speak a little bit into that? I don't know if that's been your experience or not, though.
No, I didn't have not. I think I had, and I'm speaking from personal experience, not from company. Yeah, I had one Section 8 tenant that I wouldn't say they was bad on the property. They took care of the property. I didn't get any calls pretty much. I would say when they left, though, they didn't leave the property like I would love for them to have left. And I don't mean like they knocked holes in the walls or anything like that. They just kind of moved out and left all their stuff. And when I talked to them, they was just like, oh, I'm moving to another state. You can have all the stuff cleaned out. I didn't want all the stuff, and then I had to clean it out, pay somebody come clean the property up. That was my experience. Now, I will say they didn't, per se, tear up the property from a perspective of where I've had some private pay. They literally knocked holes in doors, knocked holes in walls. So I was just like, speaking with my attorney, he said, look, it would be better for you to just reno and move on. You're going to have a hard time chasing them down. So, and that was my experience with a private pay. So I guess for me, it kind of balances out. Where the Section 18, they didn't tear the property up, and just left all that stuff and everything in it, and I had to go clean the property out. So that was at the end of the lease period. So, but here's what I will offer up and say that the benefit you have with a Section 8 tenant, and if you partner with Evernest, is that, hey, in your property management agreement, we give you an opportunity to select an option to have semi-annual or annual inspections. That way we can go in and check the property for you. We can inspect the property while the tenant is there for you if you are concerned about, hey, my property being damaged, or the tenant's taking care of my property. That way you don't want 3 years of leases and then they move out and you realize they've literally knocked a hole through a wall or something. So that's the advantage I would say you have with Section 8 and partnering with us, to where we can go out and do those inspections. And you also can request those inspections through housing as well, to go out and do. I don't think the ones with housing will be as thorough as we would do as a property management company. So I would definitely encourage investors to go out and sign up for annual inspections with us, where we can go out and give you that peace of mind.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. We've done inspections for a long time, and we, if we find something and we can point it out to you, what we do is we show you that on a report. We're taking pictures, sending that to you, and saying, hey, here's what's going on. This needs to be taken care of before it becomes a bigger problem, right? So you may have a small leak. We don't want this thing to get out of control. You also brought back a flashback. I literally saw on my phone this morning. So I've got this little app called Time Hop, and it shows me pictures from I've taken on my phone for a long, long time. And it showed me a picture 13 years ago, Derrick.
Wow.
I went and walked one of my properties, and it was the only eviction I've ever had to do. And this was a tenant that I placed myself. I wasn't a client of Evernest yet. I placed it myself, but it was that experience, and they did exactly what you said. They just left all their stuff in there. And I was like, it's going to cost me, I've got to clean this whole place out, and I'm going to take stuff to the dumpster. And so I saw that this morning, and I remembered, and it was after that experience that I hired Evernest. And back then we were GK Houses, but I wasn't working here, and I called my buddy Matthew and I said, I'm ready for y'all to take over this house. I can't deal with this anymore. So yeah, but no, that's some really good insight. I agree with you. I think the checks, the annual inspections, both by Section 8 and by Evernest, help keep a check on any of that. And, so I've had I'll tell you, probably one of my favorite residents that I ever had on Section 8. She was on Section 8 and she was paying like $20 of the rent. It was $725 a month, and maybe she was paying that $25, and Section 8 was paying most of it. 4 years later, she was paying all of it except for like $10 or $15 of it. And to me, that's the success of the program. When that happens, that's the way the program is supposed to work. And she was awesome, loved her, and she was a great resident for me.
Absolutely agree with that. I think I was telling a friend the other day, me and him was talking about some rental properties. And I think that's the nuance of the program that sometimes, I would say a lot of times, most often than not, gets overlooked, that it's a transitional program to transition you into something better. So I would definitely say those are wins when you can get tenants like that. I would like to think that we choose them more often than not here at Evernest. So I think, again, it's a great win if you can partner with us and housing, and we're able to do that for you. Or we can handle it, probably pay for you just as well. So again, we're just looking to be that great partner here in Little Rock for you.
Yeah, and I agree with you though. When you're buying in C class, and if you come to Little Rock and you want D class or whatever, but C class, let's just stick with C class. You do open up a whole lot more potential residents when you say, "Hey, I'll accept Section 8 or Housing Authority." Well, cool. Well, what else do you want to talk about, Derrick? I mean, this has been great. I think this is, for investors who are listening to this all around the country, I think if you haven't explored Little Rock as one of your markets, we have a lot of people that look at Birmingham, a lot of people that look at Memphis. I think Little Rock is just this hidden gem here in the South.
Absolutely it is. And I can't overemphasize enough the price point in which you can penetrate this market as an investor and get that return on it. Because at the end of the day, we all know that's what everybody is looking for. We watch HGTV, we bought into the hype, and we're trying to find that residual or what's known as passive income, although I would argue many times it's not as passive as it's made out to be. This is a market in which you can penetrate and get a return on investment. And something else to think about in our market, our days on market of DOM is less than 30 days. So if you were to buy in the Little Rock market, you don't have to worry about the carrying cost of a property for carrying it for 6 months. You bring to us, we'll have that thing on the market and rent it in less than 30 days. There are a few properties that we have with institutional that go outside of that 30 days. But for the most part, our organic properties are under 30 days. And again, organic properties is just our mom and pop, 1 and 2, maybe 5 or 6 door owners. We can turn those around again in less than 30 days. So I think that's something awesome that owners should think about as well when you're thinking about Live Little Rock. And one last point I will say, we got some up and coming areas that are outliers in Little Rock, like Austin, Ward, and Bauxite. Oh, those are growing areas, especially in Ward and Bauxite, where we literally have new builds for investors. So I wouldn't say they're quite Class A. I would definitely say a little mix between Class A and B. Some of those are going for 180. And again, you can rent those for a bit more. You still see a great return on the investment. So that's also a reason to invest in Little Rock. Little Rock is continuing to grow. There are several corporations that's coming in the next year or two here that's only going to add more demand to that housing market for us here. So again, those are reasons you should invest here in Little Rock.
Yeah, I think that's great, especially when you start talking about newer builds. If you can get in on some newer builds, you have a lot less maintenance your first several years of that property. And, $180,000 price point is not bad if you're renting those up for a decent amount. So, well, Derrick, what's the best way for people to get in touch or learn more about the market in Little Rock? How would you want somebody, if they were interested, to reach out?
Well, you can reach out to me personally, and I can directly put you in contact with our sales teams, our brokerage team, even the property managers here. You can reach me on my email at D as in Delta, my last name Fletcher, FLETCHER, at Evernest.co. Again, that's D Fletcher at Evernest.co. You can also reach me on my work cell at 501-287-4132 as well. So you can email me anytime with any questions. I promise you, if I can't answer those questions, I'll put you in contact with the right people on our team. And our job is to get it solved for you. We want you to make money. That's how we make money. So again, we have a vested interest there as well. So we would love to partner with you. Even if you're thinking about investing in Little Rock, hey, give us a call, shoot us an email. I promise you, we can point you in the right direction.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome. Thank you, Derrick. Thanks for being here. All right, everybody. If you haven't already, we'd love for you to leave us a review on Apple iTunes. Helps other people find us. And we'll be back next week with another episode of the Evernest Real Estate Investor.
Thank you.